Okay, on the thing we have here, it says I'm going to do a scripture reading. And, I got to tell you a story because, Christy asked me, do I want to do a scripture reading? I said, sure. And so she sent me a list of some different scriptures that I could choose from. And I read through all of them and I felt like, okay, my dad was a believer, okay? If you're here and you know my dad, he was a believer in God. And he knew that when we're down here on earth, we're just spirits living inside of a physical body. We're here for a while, for one lifetime. And so I knew my dad. I've done a lot of prayer work. I knew my dad transitioned smoothly. And I know he went to heaven. He went to become what you could call a light being. And I know that if we love someone and we have a love connection with someone in heaven, if we ask for their help or we talk to them, they know. They're aware of it. So I said, Dad, all these scriptures, which one would you want me to read? And I just didn't feel like any of them were the right ones. And so I was sitting there and I had this Bible. And I said, Dad, I want to just open this Bible. I want you to help me. I'm just going to let it drop open. And I did that. And I said, Dad, you got to guide my eyes. There's a lot of words on this page. I want you to guide my eyes right to where you want me to read, what you want me to read at this service we're having for you. And I want all you people to know my dad and my mom, my grandparents, my Uncle Jim, they're all right here, folks. They're all right here. They know what we're going through down here. They know how hard it is. They know we come down here to make choices and to grow our spirit, to grow our soul. The choices we make, whenever we make the right choices, it adds to us, and we take it up and we go. You guys aren't going to believe these scriptures that my eyes landed on. I looked down. This was Ecclesiastes chapter 7. My eyes went to a word. This is an NIV Bible, and so they put a heading. The word said wisdom. This chapter is about wisdom. This is the first phrase my eyes landed on, okay? And you people who know my dad, tell me if this is not him speaking. A good name is better than fine perfume. A good name is better than fine perfume. What's a good name? So I read that, and there's actually 2 verses here. I'm going to read the rest of it. And I just said, Dad, help me understand what's important about this to you. My dad, when he was a young man, I'm sure before he got married, he decided, okay, I'm going to find myself a wife. I'm going to become a husband. I'm going to have a family, and I'm going to become a father. In a few days, I'm going to turn 60. I was the firstborn of my dad. All those 60 years, I watched all the choices my dad made. And when you're down here in this life, you're faced with tough choices. A lot of them. There's a lot of tough choices today in this world we're living in right now. We all know it. Every time my dad had a tough choice, and when he chose to become a husband and a father, he said, I'm going to be a good man. And he always chose that path. When he had a path that I could go to the right or to the left, he went where it was good. That's what my dad did. I watched it for 60 years. I feel honored and blessed that I could be the firstborn son of this man. I really do. I really do. He was a good man. All you people who are here who knew him, he was a good man. Let me read to you the rest of what was, that's just the first part of the verse. So you see the heading, wisdom. A good name is better than fine perfume. The day of death is better than the day of birth. The day of death is better than the day of birth. I've got to tell you something, another little thing that happened that day. He died, okay? Several years ago, probably 5 years ago or something like that, I'm a believer like my dad. I believe that I'm a spirit living inside of a physical body. I'm here for a lifetime. The choices I make are going to go, the good choices that help me grow and be a better person are going to go with me. It's going to help my soul. I believe the same God my dad did. There's a loving God who created us. That's why we're down here. I also believe we choose to come down here. And some of the things I kind of believe now is that when we're up there in the light and we're light beings, before we even come down here, we make a plan. And some of the teaching that I've seen says that we can't even get into a family unless everyone in that family, their soul that's up in heaven, the biggest part of them, we're just a small part of us down here in the body. But you have to qualify to be in the family you're going to be in. And every member of that family, the father, the mother, all the sisters and brothers, all got to agree, yeah, you can come in. And then we come down here and we're just a baby. We don't have any memories. And then we're faced with all these choices that we got to make. We got to decide what path we're going to take and how we're going to learn and grow our soul. I think that's consistent with the stuff I was taught when I was a kid. I believe it. Anyway, I also learned that, the time of transition when you're going to die, when you're going to take your soul, your spirit that's in this body, when it's going to come out of the body, out of the physical body, you're not used to that. You haven't been in that kind of a state. You've been locked into a body for a long time. So that transition can kind of be rough for people if they're not ready. So anyway, I learned, what I was going to say is, it's a long story, but I just learned how to do prayer work for transitioning. Help people get healing and ready for transition so when the time comes. So when my dad, he got sick, like my sister was saying, and Doug was, like primary caretaker a lot of times, and I'm sure my dad, he knew that his body, just wouldn't bounce back, and things were going downhill. So I'm sure, especially near the end where he had to walk with a walker, my dad fell a couple of times, and it's a miracle, I think, that he did get broken bones when that happened. I think it was miracles. But my dad was a trooper, man, he'd never been sick. I'd had chronic illness kind of all my life. My dad had always had strong health all his life. He never had any kind of chronic illness. And then this last period where he needed help, it was chronic illness. And that's a rough thing if you've never had to experience that. Your body just won't bounce back. It won't come back with the energy levels. My dad loved activity. He loved to be out doing things. He didn't want to sit around. He wanted to be out doing. He wanted to come to the church and do volunteer work. He wanted to go out and work on the yard. That's the stuff he wanted to do. So anyway, when he got the sickness, and he has to even walk around in a walker because he doesn't have the energy levels to do anything more than that. My dad was a trooper. That's a rough thing to live through. I've been through it myself. I know. And he kept a positive attitude. And he made his choices. Okay, I want to go to this doctor. I want to go to that doctor. I'm not going to take that medicine. I'm not going to take this medicine. I'm not. And the final one was, I don't want to die in a hospital. I want to die at home. So me and Doug, we just helped him. Dad, your decision. We'll back you, whatever you want to do. And that's what we did. So that day, that morning, Tuesday morning, okay? My friend Nalween is my prayer partner too. She learned about these prayers. You know, we do some prayer work that's like it's kind of a prayer protocol where you're praying to the God of heaven and you're making a lot of specific requests, you know, to bring healing or to do whatever. So anyway, that morning we did our prayer work, and whenever you do prayer work like that, you can dedicate it to your primary client. Who do you want the most focus to be on? That morning, Tuesday morning, we said, okay, let's dedicate this to Dad having a smooth transition, okay? When a spirit comes out of a body, it's a, you know, if you're not ready for it, it's a difficult thing. So that morning we did our prayer work at about 8 o'clock, and we dedicated it to a smooth transition for Dad. At 9 o'clock, Doug came in and said, Dad's gone. He didn't suffer a whole bunch. He wasn't completely incapacitated. My dad had a smooth transition. He wasn't. Sometimes when people get sick and they get, at the very end, Dad was very weak, could almost hardly speak. Sometimes when people get under that much stress in their body, kind of the negative things will come out. That didn't happen with my dad. He wasn't a perfect man, okay? He was not perfect, but boy, every time big decisions there, he made the right choice. And so even when he was sick and super weak, he was a kind, gentle man whenever we're around him. And whenever he had to ask for help or whatever, always kindness and gentleness. My dad was ready to go. And I think probably if I was my dad, the thing that he would have been concerned about, well, are my kids set? Are they going to be okay? Is my family going to be okay? That morning, I think part of the prayer, I'm sure all of you have been praying too, right? A lot of prayer work. There's a God in heaven who hears us. Dad knew that. And all that prayer work adds up. And that morning, Dad was ready to go. And I'm sure Mom was right there. His parents were right there. And they took him to heaven. That's exactly what I feel like happened. Let me just finish the last kind of verse here. You guys listen, you tell me whether this wasn't Stuart Harrah speaking to us, okay? I let it fall open. I said, Dad, guide my eyes to the right spot. Wisdom. A good name is better than fine perfume. The day of death is better than the day of birth. Because you got to be ready. You want to be ready. Building a good name and being a good person help make you ready. And even if you made mistakes, you can always turn around and say, I'm going to do what's right from this point forward, and you're ready. It is better to go to a house of mourning than to go to a house of feasting. For death is the destiny of everyone. The living should take this to heart. So we all got to know, we see a lot of death around us these days. We just want to, I think the message of that is just do what you can to be ready. Do what you can to be ready. No one's perfect. Even though whatever you've done with your life, whatever mistakes you made, doesn't matter. Just make a decision. You're going to do what's right and reach out to heaven, reach out to God. Ask for help. And do prayer work, God help me when my time comes and I'm weak and I'm sick or whatever else, help me to be ready. I want to be ready. So anyway, that was the scripture that Dad gave me. And like I said, I'm extremely honored to have been in this family and to be the son of my dad. I really am. Thank you, Dad.